Hi, I'm Paul Brodie. We are in my shop. Welcome. There's the two of us. I'm the fabricator. Mitch is the filmmaker. You don't get to see much of him at all. I have no idea where this shirt came from, but it's 6 years old. Somehow I got it. Okay, what's new? Let's take a little walk around here and we're going to talk about what's new. I am a fabricator, but I have been masquerading as a painter, and I worked on the Aramaki here, and I think it turned out quite nice. And I want to show you the paint I used, because automotive paint is not inexpensive, and you might be interested in knowing what kind of paint I use. Here's my spray paint bench. I've got some things here that I've been working on and that. So on the orange on the Aramaki, I use a base coat and a clear coat system. So this is Matrix, it's the orange, it got custom mixed. And then for the clear coat, I use Imron. I've had this can for a long time. It's about half full. I just got the activator. So how much does paint cost? I bought a pint of the Matrix, so it comes up to about here, 60 bucks. I bought this years ago. It has to come up from the US, so you're paying all the customs and the shipping and things like that. A gallon was about, if I can remember, $400. And the activator I just got, it's 1 US quart, $267. So automotive paint is not cheap. If you thought house paint was expensive, not compared to automotive paint. So I've been working on these things, and Mitch is going to show you what the oil tank used to look like. It had a few dents in it filled with Bondo, and then I sprayed on an etching primer, then I sprayed on high fill primer, sanded it, so it's just waiting for the decal, because I got the black and it's got a minimum oil level decal that goes across there. This is the tank off the Cub. It had a bunch of dents, and they pulled them out, and they filled it with some weld, and then I took off all the Bondo that was on there, and I took it down to bare metal, did some Bondo, so now it goes into the booth. It's going to get etching primer, high fill primer, get sanded with 320 paper, and then it's going to be burgundy on the top and silver on the bottom. This backing plate is going to be silver too. So I found some Imron. I used to have the whole Imron mixing system. So I got silver here. It's a tint. It's not the actual color. It's a tint, but I think that's going to work fine. And the burgundy is going to be a mix of these three cans here. Mostly this color. So it should look pretty nice. When I was building bikes, this was 1986, I started Brodie Bikes, and we were working out of the house on Fraser Street, off Fraser Street, and the shop was inside, and if you look at the sun deck, I used to hang a pole out there, and I'd put the frame on there, and I would spray paint under the apple tree. So I got away with it for May, June, July, August, maybe a little bit of September, and then it got to be too cold. So I do have a spray booth now, so maybe you'd like to have a look at it. Okay, I thought so. So let's take a walk. If you thought my shop ended on that wall over there, you were wrong, because I've got piles more room here. So what I wanted to show you, one thing, is the hook, because most of the things that I paint get hung on the hook. And I made this years ago, 1/2 inch cold rolled, 1/4. There's a ball bearing. Can you see the ball bearing in there? And then there's a thread. It's a 1/4 inch National Fine. That's all it is. And it goes right up here on the ceiling, like that. And I've hung bicycle frames, motorcycle frames on this. It's amazing what this hook can hold. See how it's a little bit of an angle up? So this is the exhaust filters. Intake filters are over here. These are the intake filters. And I got a couple of, those are my two spray guns. This one here is a detail gun for a car, like car doors and all that. This is for the bicycle frames. This one does all the motorcycle parts. That's your tour. Last week we worked on I call this the subframe on the Cub, and remember how we cut, moved, tack welded. Well, it's all welded up now. It's nice and smooth. That turned out nice. And the fillet brazing here that's done by the factory, it was kind of lumpy. And I told myself I was just going to leave it, but then I couldn't help myself. I had to file it all up smooth. And I found little air bubbles, so they did a little bit of overheating. But so this is basically done, this part of the frame. So that has to go into here. I got to take off the swing arm. It's going to get spray painted. That's what's going on there. I ordered something off eBay. It's very hard to find an original Speedo for a Tiger Cub, but I found this one. It came out of India. It's a reproduction, but it's for a Tiger Cub. It says Smith's. It goes up to 80 miles an hour. I placed my order on eBay, and this showed up 7 days later to my door. And the cost? The Speedo and the shipping, less than $50. It's something like $48 and I don't know, whatever. So I think that's kind of a great deal. I'm pretty happy with that. It was well packaged, lots of foam, 3 separate boxes and an envelope. So I hope it works. It'll be great. I wanted to tell you about a kid. His name is Ryan. Mitch told me about Ryan. He has a YouTube channel. He has 30 million subscribers. 30 million. And what he does a lot is open presents. All these toy companies send him presents because he's so influential. So anyway, Ryan's World, 30 million subscribers. So I got something here and I thought I would open it for you. So it's round. Got some bumps on it. Okay. Oh. Oh, it's a throttle. That's what I wanted. I wanted a throttle. Okay. Because I didn't like the one that's on the bike, so. There we go. And I like it because it's black and the cable doesn't come straight out like that. On the Tiger Cub one, the cable comes straight out. This one here, it goes along the handlebar. So I've used this kind of a throttle on other projects, and it's off a XR200 Honda. And you can buy these on the internet. They're $8.65 US. I think that's a deal. You even get the hand grips too. It's not like this anything special, but I mean, if I go to a motorcycle shop, a pair of hand grips is going to cost me 10 bucks anyway. So that's what's new. So we're going to start making some stuff and modifying some stuff. And what I'll show you first of all, the first thing on the list is the front axle that's bent. On the Cub here, it's got really small forks. These are known as the lightweight forks. And over here, these are known as the heavyweight forks. I think you can see the difference in the size. It's quite substantial. So what that means is that the forks are wider, So I want to use this wheel here because it's got a rim that's okay. The spokes are a bit rusted, but so this one has the short axle. We needed the long axle, so this is the wheel out of those forks. So I took the axle out of this hub because the axle is going to go into this hub, but when I put it in the lathe, it's bent. It's got a wow to it. So I'm not going to order a new one. We're going to see if we can make this straight. So we'll take some V-blocks because the centers on the end, I don't think they're very accurate. So we're going to use a couple V-blocks on the surface table. Then we're going to go to the arbor press and see how straight we can make it, okay? That's actually not bent a whole lot, but it's bent somewhere on one side because when I hold it in the chuck, it definitely has a wow to it. Well, that's very interesting that it seems to be pretty darn straight. I'm going to put it back in the chuck in the lathe and see what that tells me. Okay, last time I did it, it had a real wobble to it, so see that's got a wobble to it. When the needle goes clockwise, it's coming towards me. So that there is the high point right there. Basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out exactly where it's bent. Oh, well, yeah, this one's... So something's going on for sure. And the high spot is right there. So there's your high spot. And the high spot is over here, so I don't know. I might have to think a little bit on how to fix this one, because it's not like it's bent right in the middle and I just put it in the arbor press and press down. It seems like each of them is bent somewhere here where the axle holds it. Okay, let's try this. Let's hold it in the middle here. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting bend or bends. Okay, so the center is not very accurate for what I did. Yeah, this one's not too accurate either. So that's the high point right there. Okay, so these two points are kind of opposite each other, not perfect. Let's just see what's going on in the middle. Well, so there's the high point there. So it's in between those. So it's a used axle and it's not like it's bent like that or anything. It's just out a bit. So we're just going to leave this because there's no real way that I can see right now to make it any better. And I'll look at the other wheel and see if that other axle might work. So let's cross that one off the list. Mitch, get your pen out, and we're going to move on to number 2. On the cub, there's a dust cap right here, and it fits under the triple clamp. And I have one here, but it's all banged up. So I thought I would make one out of aluminum. So can't take that long. So Let's go to the lathe. That's a spigot. Or is it an arbor? And I don't know if you noticed, but I've been slowly working on the cub motor, polishing it. Look, I got down. You can see where I've got down to. That's all by hand. I take a file, and then I take 80 grit, then I take 180 grit. So that's what stage I'm. No, actually, that's just 80 grit right there. I haven't gone to 180 grit there yet, but that's a process. So this is definitely, that's probably there's almost half a day's work to get the cases to match and get the low spots out. Because all right, I think we're at the stage where we'll just leave this. There you go. All right, Mitch, one more thing to cross off the list. I'm happy with that. Not perfect, but nice. Next on the list is handlebar mounts. So this is the triple clamp off the heavyweight forks, the new forks. This is the lightweight forks. So you can see it's a little different, but see these, even Mitch calls them ugly. These are just like it's like a plumbing thing that holds the bars on there. So I've got some aluminum 6061, and I've also got some Allen screws. So we're going to make some nice handlebar mounts on the top. That's my freehand sketch. So we need to find the center of the holes. So let's see what we can do here. So it says 1.318. Make it work. And we're going to go for that 612, 613. We're going to go for 5/8, which is 625. Just a little bit larger. And the holes, this is 489. I did machine these down so they're concentric with with the Allen screw. So we're going to go for 1/2-inch holes. We'll use an end mill for that. So we got to do some kind of a side view here, so because we need to know a little bit about what it's going to look like. Obviously the handlebars are 7/8 of an inch, standard size, so 7/8 of an inch. So we need to know the depth and the height. So that's where the bar goes, 7/8. Can you see that's not a very good fit? Whoa, that's going to squish the bar, isn't it? Oh well, the top part will be better. So let's just see what happens here. So if this goes too low, it interferes with the bar. So let's have it about like, that looks pretty good right there. So this is, so the depth there, we're going to say 450. That should be good. That's 450. And then we want about as much over the top as well. So that's, let's say 325. It has to come up. 325, 450, and 325 is 775. So let's see if that makes sense. This is how you design stuff first. So I'm going from about the halfway. That looks fine. So the height, there we go. If you had a drawing like that, could you make something like that? So do you see how I'm using this as a stop? This goes against the vise, and that piece goes up to the stop. That way they're all the same. And I've got this one over here so it holds the jaws parallel. If you just hold it on one side, then the jaws can go at an angle. That's not good machining. So that sits flush like that. What we need to do now is to round these corners. Yeah, that end mill, that cutter, saved a lot of time on filing, a lot. You can see how easy it is to blend in. That took almost no filing whatsoever. If you don't get the cut right though, that's a problem. So that's what it looks like when it's filed up, and that looks very decent. I don't know why I want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. We're going to make that rounded a little bit. That's way too much, way too tight. How about a CD case for a radius? How about that, eh? If this doesn't work, I can just start from scratch, right? So there, that's kind of what I thought. Where this comes down to maybe halfway on the Allen screw, just gives it a little curve. So let's try this. Let's go to the bandsaw and just see what happens. This will be the final shape, and I think I'm happy with it. There's my handlebar. There we go. So a couple of those up there. Looks a lot better than those U-shaped bolts. All right, Mitch, can you cross that off the list, and we'll get on to the last thing, number 4. Here's the backing plate that I'm going to be using on this wheel. This backing plate goes on the other forks. Those are called the heavyweight forks. And I don't like how the cable goes in here and it doesn't have any sort of adjustment. So we're going to do it like the Aramaki. And that's going to get mounted on the new forks somewhere up here. So our job right now is to take off the brake shoes and get rid of this, fill up the hole so I can paint it. Let's do it. Let's see what happens here. Oh yeah, I think it's gonna go. Oh, there we go. They popped. See, there's a lip there. If I grind that off, that should pop out. Then I'm gonna make an insert on the lathe that's exactly the right size. We're gonna bead blast this. Then after I got the insert, we'll cut it off with a hacksaw. So there's a little bit extra on the inside. It'll be a hacksaw line, and then fusion weld with a TIG torch. That's the plan of action. So let's go set up outside, and I'll get my, I'm going to use the Tom Ritchie grinder. See how that works here. This is the Tom Ritchie belt sander. If you don't know who Tom is, you should Google him. He's a very famous bike builder. Well, it's ground down. Maybe we'll hold it in the bench vise inside and see if we can work it off. That's a good fit. It's off. It was a good fit, and then they swaged it. all we need. So, we're going to make an insert that fits right into there, and I'll do a little fusion weld in there, and then it's like it was never there. Okay, so that's going to work. And that should be, oh, look at that. It's flush. Okay, fusion weld. That is a fusion pass. There is no rod. I just have to bead blast the rest, do a little sanding, maybe a little touch of Bondo. Touch, nothing major. Into the paint booth, where I masquerade as a painter. Thank you very much for watching. We appreciate it very much. Mitch and I like coffee. If you buy us coffees, perfect. See you next week. Take care. Oh yes, all the bicycle frames get hung here. So I can't show you what's in that room. That's a secret. I'm sorry.